In the year 1575, Japan was a land torn apart by ambition. Dozens of clans, each ruled by their own samurai lords, fought endlessly for control of the islands. Loyalty was fragile, peace was an illusion, and death was as common as the morning fog rolling over the rice fields. It was the Sengoku Jidai, the age of warring states, a time when the sword decided everything. In this world of blades and honor, one man dared to challenge the very foundation of what it meant to be a warrior. His name was Oda Nobunaga, and his weapon was not a sword, not a spear, but something that many samurai considered unholy: the gun. For centuries, the samurai had ruled as Japan's gods of war. Their code, the Bushido, worshipped courage, loyalty, and the beauty of dying in battle. To kill from afar was dishonorable, cowardly even. But Nobunaga was not bound by tradition. He was bound by results. He understood that in an age of chaos, it wasn't honor that would decide the future. It was innovation. While others clung to the past, he was already shaping the future. That future would be tested against one of the greatest powers of his time, the Takeda clan. Led by Takeda Katsuyori, son of the legendary Shingen Takeda, they were feared across Japan for their unmatched cavalry. The thunder of their horses could shake the ground, their charges could split armies in two. To face the Takeda in open battle was to challenge death itself. But Nobunaga had no intention of fighting on their terms. The place of destiny was Nagashino, a quiet valley near the Shitaragahara plain. On that field, the ancient and the modern would collide. Katsuyori, eager to prove himself worthy of his father's name, marched with over 15,000 men, his banners red as blood, his confidence unshaken. Nobunaga, allied with Tokugawa Ieyasu, commanded nearly 30,000, but numbers alone did not guarantee victory. The Takeda cavalry had crushed larger armies before. What Nobunaga had was something new, something that would shatter the illusion of samurai invincibility forever. It was called the Tanegashima, Japan's first firearm, a matchlock musket introduced by Portuguese traders only 30 years earlier. While most daimyos dismissed it as a foreign curiosity, Nobunaga saw it as the key to domination. He didn't just buy guns, he studied them, mass-produced them, and trained his men to use them with machine-like precision. To his enemies, it seemed madness. To history, it was genius. On the dawn of June 28, 1575, the valley was wrapped in mist. The banners of Takeda fluttered in the damp wind, and the sound of drums echoed through the hills. Katsuyori's army, confident as ever, prepared to charge. They believed their horses would crush any formation. They believed no wall, no line of peasants with guns could stop them. But when they looked across the river, what they saw was unlike anything Japan had ever witnessed before. Nobunaga had turned the field into a fortress. Wooden palisades stretched in zigzag patterns across the plain, each line covering the next. Behind them stood rows of soldiers armed with Tanegashima. But these weren't the crude gunners of other armies. They were trained in rotation fire. 3 lines of marksmen, each ready to shoot as the others reloaded. It was an orchestra of death, rehearsed to perfection. The rain from the night before had softened the ground, turning the fields into mud. Katsuyori didn't care. His pride would not allow retreat. When the horn sounded, the Takeda cavalry charged. Thousands of horses thundered down the slopes, banners blazing, lances lowered. The ground shook under their hooves. For a moment, it was as if the gods of war themselves had descended upon Nagashino. Then, Nobunaga raised his hand. A single command broke the silence. Fire. The first volley roared like thunder across the valley. Smoke and fire erupted from the barricades. Horses screamed, men fell, and the front line of Takeda riders vanished in a storm of gunfire. Before the echo had faded, the second line fired, then the third. The rotation continued, unbroken, relentless, mechanical. The Takeda charge wavered, stumbled, then collapsed. Horses slipped in the mud, crashing into fallen men. Those who made it to the barricades found themselves face to face with walls of wood and the sharp ends of spears. They tried again and again, charging in waves, but every attack ended the same way, in blood and smoke. The battlefield became a slaughterhouse. Katsuyori watched in disbelief as his proud cavalry disintegrated before his eyes. The tactic that had made his clan unstoppable was now useless. He ordered another charge, desperate to break the line. The response was merciless. The guns spoke again and again, until even the bravest of his samurai hesitated to advance. By midday, the plain of Nagashino was unrecognizable. The river ran red with blood. The banners of Takeda lay trampled in the mud. Nobunaga, calm and expressionless, watched from his command post as centuries of tradition burned away. For him, this was more than victory. It was vindication. The age of the sword was dying, and he was the man burying it. The chronicles would later call it the end of an era. The samurai code of face-to-face combat had been broken by the cold precision of gunfire. But for Nobunaga, this was not about destroying honor. It was about creating a new kind of order, a Japan united through discipline, not chaos. The men who once mocked him for using foreign weapons now bowed to his vision. As the smoke cleared, Takeda Katsuyori fled the field with only a handful of survivors. His clan, once the terror of the warring states, was shattered. And Nobunaga, standing among the ruin, had proven a truth that would echo across history, that innovation, not tradition, decides the fate of empires. The field of Nagashino was silent now. Only the crows remained, circling above the wreckage of 1,000 fallen samurai. Smoke still drifted over the wooden barricades where Nobunaga's men had stood their ground, their faces blackened with powder, their armor stained with ash. For hours, they had fired in perfect rhythm, as if guided by an unseen hand. Now, they stood victorious over the corpses of the Takeda cavalry, men who had believed that courage alone could defy the future. Oda Nobunaga did not celebrate. His eyes scanned the valley, cold and distant, as if he were looking not at victory, but at proof that the old world was finished. Around him, his generals whispered in disbelief. Never before had such devastation been wrought by mere gunfire. One of them, Tokugawa Ieyasu, his ally and future ruler of Japan, stood beside him in silence. Both men understood what this battle meant. Nagashino was not just the defeat of Takeda Katsuyori, it was the execution of an entire age. The Takeda banners, once symbols of pride and power, now lay torn in the mud. Their cavalry, the most feared in all of Japan, had been erased in a single morning. Out of 15,000, more than 10,000 were dead. The survivors stumbled away from the field, wounded, broken, and without a purpose. Katsuyori himself barely escaped, his armor shattered, his spirit crushed. For the first time, the mighty Takeda heir knew fear, the kind that no sword could cut through. News of the disaster spread like wildfire. Lords and generals across the country spoke of Nagashino with awe and dread. The samurai who once boasted of their valor now whispered of the thunder weapon, the Tanegashima, that had turned the gods of war into ghosts. In Kyoto, poets wrote verses about the day when fire defeated steel. Some called it blasphemy, Others called it destiny. But Nobunaga's genius went beyond the weapon itself. His true victory was in how he used it. The Tanegashima alone did not win Nagashino. The strategy did. While others saw a gun, he saw a system. He understood discipline in a way no Japanese general had before. He turned the chaos of battle into choreography, the noise of war into order. His men didn't fight as individuals seeking glory. They fought as parts of a single, relentless machine. Historians would later debate whether Nobunaga was a visionary or a tyrant. To his enemies, he was a demon in human form, a man who desecrated the traditions of Japan for the sake of power. To his followers, he was the light that burned through the darkness of endless war. Both were true. Nobunaga believed that to create peace, one must first destroy the world as it is. In the aftermath of Nagashino, he proved this belief with fire. One by one, he crushed the rival clans that refused to bend the knee. Temples that opposed him were burned. Castles that defied him were reduced to ash. The same ruthless precision that broke the Takeda cavalry now turned inward on the rest of Japan. But behind the brutality lay method. Nobunaga was not a mindless conqueror. Every strike he made was calculated. Every city he burned chosen to send a message. Resistance to progress was death. Even his allies feared him. Tokugawa Ieyasu, though loyal, watched Nobunaga's ambition grow with unease. He saw the man's hunger to unify Japan not as a dream, but as an obsession. Yet, deep down, Ieyasu knew that Nobunaga's vision was necessary. Without it, Japan would remain a battlefield forever. For the common people, Nagashino brought a strange kind of hope. Peasants who once trembled before mounted samurai now saw that the world could change, that the humble farmer with a gun could bring down the proud warrior with a sword. In that single realization, centuries of hierarchy began to crack. The samurai's aura of invincibility was gone. Still, among the survivors of the Takeda, whispers of revenge persisted. Katsuyori retreated to his mountain stronghold, his pride shattered but not yet dead. He blamed his defeat on the terrain, on fate, on betrayal, on anything but his refusal to see the truth. While Nobunaga pushed forward, modernizing his armies and solidifying his control, Katsuyori gathered what little remained of his clan, clinging to the illusion that honor could still triumph over innovation. But fate, once set in motion, does not turn back. In the years that followed, the Tanegashima spread through Japan like wildfire. Every daimyo, no matter how proud, was forced to arm his troops with firearms. Blacksmiths who once forged katanas now hammered barrels and locks. The sound of hammering steel no longer promised the song of the sword, but the crack of the gun. The spirit of the samurai was fading, replaced by the discipline of soldiers. Yet, even as Nobunaga reshaped the country, his own empire began to strain under the weight of his ambition. Power creates enemies as quickly as it destroys them. Old allies began to whisper behind closed doors. Priests cursed his name, and within his own court, men who owed him everything began to dream of a Japan without him. At Nagashino, Nobunaga had destroyed the old ways of war. But in doing so, he had also unleashed a new kind of conflict, one that could not be fought with swords or muskets, but with betrayal and fear. The thunder of gunfire had faded, but the echoes of that day would haunt Japan for generations. By 1576, a year after Nagashino, the world that Oda Nobunaga had envisioned was beginning to take shape. Cold, efficient, and unrelenting, castles rose from the earth like monuments to his will. Roads were built to move troops faster, markets to feed them, and gunsmiths to arm them. The countryside that had once echoed with the clash of swords now pulsed with the rhythm of marching feet and the crack of gunfire during endless drills. Japan was transforming, and every nail driven, every bullet forged, carried Nobunaga's shadow. But power, once tasted, demands more. The victory at Nagashino had proven that Nobunaga could conquer through intellect as much as through might. Yet, the battle also made him a target for every lord whose pride had been wounded by his revolution. The Takeda were crippled, but other clans, the Uesugi in the north, the Mori in the west, watched his expansion with growing unease. They called him a monster, a man who sought to erase the soul of Japan. Nobunaga didn't deny it. He embraced the name. To him, the samurai who clung to their swords were ghosts, relics of a time when emotion ruled over logic. He wanted a Japan ruled by discipline, not bloodlines, by obedience, not superstition. To build that world, he knew he had to break every rule the old one had written. His soldiers no longer fought as knights bound by honor, but as instruments of strategy. Each man had his place, his task, his timing. Every unit was part of a larger pattern that moved only at Nobunaga's command. His armies were the first in Japan to fight, not as warriors, but as machines, an extension of his will. Even his architecture spoke of the future. The great fortress at Azuchi, built soon after Nagashino, was unlike any castle Japan had ever seen. It rose high above Lake Biwa, glittering with gold and lacquer, visible for miles. But it wasn't built to intimidate enemies. It was built to inspire awe. Inside its halls, Nobunaga welcomed foreign traders, missionaries, and envoys from distant lands. Where others saw outsiders as threats, he saw opportunity. He studied their ships, their weapons, their languages. He listened, learned, and adapted. The Portuguese missionaries who had first brought the Tanegashima found in Nobunaga a kindred spirit, a man unafraid of foreign knowledge. While other lords burned churches and expelled foreigners, he protected them, curious about their faith, their science, their world. To him, everything, whether gunpowder or God, was a tool to understand power. Meanwhile, Takeda Katsuyori languished in the ruins of his father's dream. His defeat at Nagashino had turned him into a ghost among men. His vassals abandoned him, his soldiers deserted, and his lands fell one by one to Nobunaga's advancing forces. In 1582, hunted and betrayed, Katsuyori took his own life on Mount Tenmokuzan, ending the line of the Takeda. The horsemen who once ruled the plains were gone, their banners burned, their legend buried beneath the new order. And yet, the fall of the Takeda marked not the end of Nobunaga's wars, but the beginning of his isolation. As his empire grew, so did the fear he inspired. His reforms, though brilliant, were merciless. He taxed the temples that had long held power, executed priests who defied him, and raised entire sects that dared to resist. The monks of Mount Hiei learned this the hard way. In 1571, even before Nagashino, he had ordered their great monastery burned to the ground, thousands slain, not for war, but for the idea that loyalty to heaven could stand above loyalty to him. It was not cruelty for cruelty's sake. In Nobunaga's mind, it was purification. But to those who followed him, the lines between justice and tyranny blurred. Tokugawa Ieyasu, ever cautious, watched and learned. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, one of Nobunaga's most trusted generals, admired his master's brilliance, but began to dream his own ambitions. The men closest to him could feel the heat of his vision, and knew that to stand too close was to burn. Yet Nobunaga seemed untouchable. Each victory fed his legend. Each reform brought Japan closer to unity. The emperor himself, powerless for generations, began to see Nobunaga as the instrument of divine will, a man chosen to end the chaos of the warring states. But the closer he came to his dream of total control, the more fragile his world became. Because the empire he was building rested on one man's genius. And genius, for all its strength, cannot escape human weakness. In the spring of 1582, Nobunaga prepared his final campaign to crush the last resistance and bring Japan entirely under his rule. His armies were stretched across the land, his generals stationed in every province. He stayed in Kyoto, confident, almost careless. The man who had planned every detail of every battle began to believe that nothing could threaten him anymore. But history has a cruel sense of irony. Just as Nobunaga had shattered the old order through innovation, he would be undone by something far more ancient: betrayal. One of his own generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, a man Nobunaga had raised to prominence, began to plot. Mitsuhide had served faithfully for years, but Nobunaga's temper was legendary. He humiliated his subordinates in public, often to assert dominance. Some endured it out of fear, others out of ambition. Mitsuhide endured it in silence, until his silence broke. In June of that year, as Nobunaga rested in the temple of Honnoji in Kyoto, Mitsuhide's troops surrounded it. Caught off guard and unarmed, Nobunaga's bodyguards fought desperately, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. The man who had rewritten the art of war now faced an enemy he could not outthink, could not shoot, could not command. As the flames rose around him, Oda Nobunaga, the man who had turned fire into power, met his end by fire as well. Refusing capture, he took his own life, sealing his fate with the same steel that had once conquered nations. The temple burned through the night. By morning, the architect of modern Japan was gone. But his death did not erase his legacy. It immortalized it. When news of Nobunaga's death reached his armies, the nation trembled. The man who had made the earth itself obey him was gone, consumed by the very flames that had defined his reign. Across the land, confusion spread like wildfire. His generals, scattered and stunned, hesitated. For a moment, it seemed as if the chaos of the Sengoku era would return, swallowing Japan once more. But among his commanders, one man did not mourn for long. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, once a common foot soldier, now one of Nobunaga's most trusted generals, saw the void his master's death had created. And in that void, he saw opportunity. Hideyoshi moved faster than anyone could have imagined. Within days, he turned his troops toward Kyoto to avenge Nobunaga and destroy Akechi Mitsuhide. The campaign would be brief and brutal. Mitsuhide's forces, still celebrating their victory, were caught unprepared. At the Battle of Yamazaki, Hideyoshi's army crushed them in a single day. The traitor was killed while fleeing. His body never recovered. Poets would later say that Mitsuhide ruled Japan for only 13 days, a ghost of a shogun whose reign ended before it began. With Mitsuhide dead, Hideyoshi emerged as the heir to Nobunaga's vision. But he was not Nobunaga. Where his master had ruled with fire, Hideyoshi ruled with patience. He understood that conquest alone could not unite Japan. It needed diplomacy, order, and the illusion of peace. Under his leadership, Nobunaga's reforms continued, though the spirit behind them softened. Yet, the weapon that had made Nagashino infamous, the Tanegashima, remained central to his power. Hideyoshi refined Nobunaga's tactics even further, integrating muskets not just as support, but as the backbone of his armies. Entire divisions trained with the same rotating volley system that had crushed the Takeda. Warfare in Japan was no longer a contest of honor. It was a science of timing, logistics, and firepower. In the decades that followed, the gun reshaped everything. The sword, once the soul of the samurai, became ceremonial, a symbol rather than a weapon. The Tanegashima, mass-produced and standardized, became the tool of empires. The same Japan that once looked down on foreign technology now built arsenals that rivaled Europe's. But every revolution carries its shadow. Nobunaga's weapon had unified Japan, but it had also robbed it of something, its mythology. The warriors who once fought for ideals now fought for wages. Battles became numbers, not legends. The poetic tragedy of the samurai faded into the smoke of the gun. Some said that Nagashino had not only destroyed the Takeda clan, but also the soul of Japan itself. Hideyoshi, though brilliant, could never escape Nobunaga's shadow. He completed the unification that his master had begun, but his rule bore the marks of contradiction. He banned private ownership of weapons, collecting swords from farmers and peasants in what became known as the sword hunt. He claimed it was to preserve peace, but in truth, it was control. The same gun that had given power to the common man was now forbidden to him. In the quiet years that followed, Japan stood transformed. The castles that Nobunaga built became symbols of authority. The guns he had introduced became the enforcers of order. And yet, behind the peace, a strange silence lingered. The silence of a country that had traded chaos for control. As decades passed, the story of Nagashino turned into legend. Artists painted it as a tale of destiny. Poets turned its smoke and thunder into metaphors. For some, it was the triumph of progress. For others, it was the death of romance. The samurai, once heroes of poetry and song, became bureaucrats of an empire that no longer needed their swords. And then, in the early 1600s, the man who had watched, waited, and learned from both Nobunaga and Hideyoshi would rise, Tokugawa Ieyasu. He had fought beside Nobunaga at Nagashino, seen the fire of innovation and understood its power. But unlike his master, Ieyasu sought permanence, not glory. When Hideyoshi died, Ieyasu seized his moment. In 1600, at the Battle of Sekigahara, he unified Japan under his own rule, founding the Tokugawa shogunate. Under Tokugawa's peace, guns were locked away, restricted to the military elite. The age of innovation paused, replaced by 2.5 centuries of isolation and order. The Tanegashima, once the thunder that shattered empires, gathered dust in arsenals. Yet, the memory of its power endured, a quiet warning of what happens when progress is suppressed by tradition. But history has a way of circling back. Centuries later, when Western powers returned to Japan with ironclads and cannons, demanding it open its ports, the nation remembered. It remembered Nagashino. It remembered Nobunaga. And it understood once again that survival belongs not to those who cling to honor, but to those who adapt. The Battle of Nagashino was not just a clash between two armies. It was the collision of two worlds. One rooted in the poetry of steel, the other in the cold logic of fire. On that muddy field, the future was decided not by bloodlines or valor, but by innovation and will. Oda Nobunaga's Tanegashima had done more than destroy an empire. It had rewritten what it meant to be Japanese. Centuries after the smoke of Nagashino cleared, the echoes of that battle still whispered through Japan's valleys and temples. What began as a clash between men became a symbol of transformation. A moment when faith in steel and horse gave way to the inevitability of progress. Oda Nobunaga, the man once branded a heretic for embracing foreign weapons, had unknowingly forged the blueprint of Japan's future. By the time the Tokugawa shogunate ruled in quiet isolation, the name Nagashino was spoken with reverence and unease. To the samurai, it was the grave where their legend was buried. To the scholars, It was proof that the world bends only to those who dare to change it. The weapon that had once been seen as dishonorable now rested behind glass in temples and castles. Relics of a time when innovation and defiance rewrote destiny. But what made Nagashino truly immortal was not the weapon itself. It was the idea behind it. Nobunaga had seen what others could not, that power is not bound by the blade, but by the mind that wields it. He turned the gun from a tool into a philosophy, one that transcended war and became the spirit of modern Japan. Every factory that rose during the Meiji Restoration, every steel ship that sailed from Yokosuka, every engineer who looked westward toward progress, each carried a spark of Nagashino within them. And yet, there was tragedy in that legacy. Nobunaga's vision united a nation, but it cost him his soul. He never lived to see the peace he carved through chaos. His life ended in betrayal, his empire inherited by men who both revered and feared him. But perhaps that was his fate all along, to be the fire that burns too bright to last. When later generations looked back, they saw in him something almost divine, a figure who broke the heavens to rebuild the earth. Historians called him the first modern Japanese leader, the bridge between feudalism and the dawn of empire. His enemies called him the destroyer of tradition. Both were right. Nobunaga was neither hero nor villain. He was inevitability made flesh. The Battle of Nagashino was more than a military victory. It was an awakening. It showed that progress cannot be silenced by pride, that innovation cannot be chained by ritual. Every shot fired on that muddy field was a bullet through the heart of the old world. And when the smoke cleared, Japan stood at the beginning of something new. A path that would lead, centuries later, to its rise as one of the most formidable powers on Earth. Even now, if you walk the plains of Nagashino, you can feel it, the weight of that transformation. The hills are quiet, the river runs calmly, but beneath the soil lie the remnants of that day when time itself seemed to hold its breath. The spirits of horsemen and gunners alike linger there, caught in the eternal silence between tradition and revolution. Oda Nobunaga may have died in flame, but his fire never went out. It burned through the centuries, reshaping the destiny of a nation that once swore never to change. The samurai world ended that day, but Japan was reborn from its ashes. And perhaps that is the greatest paradox of all, that destruction and creation are often the same act, viewed from opposite sides of history. Nobunaga understood that. He lived and died for it. If the story of the Battle of Nagashino has shown you anything, it's that the future belongs to those who dare to see differently. Progress always begins with defiance, with one person willing to face an empire and say, "The old ways are over." Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through the turning point that changed Japan forever, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the battles, ideas, and leaders that shaped our world. Leave a comment below. Do you think Nobunaga's embrace of the gun was genius or blasphemy? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, this was Imperium Total, uncovering the hidden revolutions that forged history.